It began as an ordinary day on Earth, until the skies darkened. A disturbance rippled through the atmosphere, and for the first time in human history, the world watched helplessly as an alien fleet descended upon them. The Vashiri, a brutal and towering race of insectoid beings, had arrived with cold, calculating efficiency. Their ships, massive and cloaked in a menacing darkness, loomed over the planet. The Earth's atmosphere crackled under the pressure of their ships, a signal that the invasion had begun. At first, humanity's response was what it had always been in the face of greater threats: chaos. Cities emptied, military forces scrambled, and the governments of the world were thrust into panic. Earth's defense systems, while advanced, were no match for the overwhelming firepower of the Vashiri warships. In mere hours, entire nations were overrun. Governments fell, and humans fled to the underground shelters scattered across the world's continents. But this wasn't just an ordinary attack. It was a slaughter. The Vashiri didn't just conquer, they destroyed. The first wave of their invasion was merciless, targeting major cities with pinpoint strikes. Thousands of lives were lost in minutes. The world's greatest cities, New York, London, Tokyo, Paris, were reduced to rubble, their infrastructures shattered and abandoned. As Earth's forces fell back, the survivors began to realize something. Dark. The Vashiri had no intentions of negotiating or enslaving them. They simply sought to erase humanity from the face of the galaxy. Humanity wasn't a threat, they were prey. And like any predator, the Vashiri relished the hunt. It wasn't just a defeat, it was an existential crisis. For the first time, humanity had been made to feel small, insignificant. They had no choice but to run, to hide in the depths of their planet and hope to survive long enough to fight another day. The spark of resistance years passed, and Earth became a place of fear and despair. For the Vashiri, Earth was another conquest, a footnote in their galaxy-spanning empire. But for humanity, something was stirring beneath the surface. The constant, unrelenting pressure, the burning desire to fight for survival. It began to fuse into something far more dangerous: a rebellion. Among the scattered survivors, a group of military leaders and scientists began to gather. They knew that humanity had been beaten, but not broken. They had no fleet, no army, and no resources, yet they had one advantage: their minds. While the Vashiri had been focusing on subjugating the planet, humanity had been preparing. Beneath the surface, in abandoned military bunkers and hidden laboratories, the brightest minds worked tirelessly to develop new technologies, new weapons that could potentially change the course of the war. It was Commander Arya Lawson, a former military strategist who had survived the initial onslaught, who found the key to humanity's survival. During a secret mission deep within an underground bunker, she uncovered something ancient, a relic from humanity's past, forgotten in the chaos of the war. It was a warship, a colossal vessel, far more advanced than anything the Vashiri had ever encountered. The ship, known as the Eclipse, had been built before the Vashiri had even set their sights on Earth. It was equipped with advanced cloaking, technology, weapons that could rival any alien fleet, and shields that were capable of withstanding the most brutal assaults. The Eclipse was a relic, but it was also humanity's salvation. With this ship as their spearhead, humanity's resistance began to take shape. The world's survivors rallied together. Small skirmishes erupted across the globe, with guerrilla fighters sabotaging Vashiri supply lines, striking at command stations, and creating chaos within their ranks. These attacks were nothing compared to the full-scale invasions of the past, but they were enough to show the Vashiri that humanity would no longer cower. The Vashiri, for the first time, began to feel a sense of unease. Their victory was not as complete as they had once believed. The reckoning begins, so the day of reckoning arrived sooner than anyone expected. With the Eclipse fully operational, Commander Lawson and her team launched a surprise assault on a key Vashiri command station in Earth's orbit. It was a daring move, perhaps even reckless, but Arya knew that humanity had to strike fast before the Vashiri could recover from the Resistance's initial blows. As the Eclipse moved toward the enemy flagship, cloaked and invisible to the Vashiri sensors. The crew inside, the ship braced themselves. The warship had been designed for this kind of warfare. Hit fast, hit hard, and disappear into the shadows before the enemy could react. The Vashiri were confident in their overwhelming power, but they had not accounted for the unpredictability of human ingenuity. The battle that ensued was chaotic. Human forces launched coordinated strikes on Vashiri command ships and outposts. The Eclipse unleashed devastating blasts, destroying Vashiri warships and disabling key strategic hubs in space. In moments, the tide of the battle shifted. The Vashiri flagship was crippled, its shields shattered by the Eclipse's weapons. For the first time in years, the Vashiri were on the defensive. Despite their technological superiority, the Vashiri were unprepared for the fierce, unrelenting determination of the human forces. The Eclipse's attacks were surgical, precise, devastating, and above all, unexpected. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were no longer running. The Vashiri, once so confident in their domination, now had to face the possibility that they might not win after all. They underestimated humanity, and in that miscalculation they had created their greatest threat. The tipping point with the Vashiri shaken but still standing, the war escalated to new heights. The resistance, bolstered by their victory, began to gain ground. Cities that had once been abandoned became strongholds for humanity's fight back, while pockets of civilians turned fighters began to join the cause. The global resistance movement grew exponentially, and Earth's military forces, though ragged and broken, rallied behind the banner of the Eclipse. Yet, the Vashiri weren't easily deterred. They brought reinforcements from across the galaxy, huge, unrelenting fleets designed to wipe out Earth's resistance once and for all. The skies darkened as the Vashiri ships arrived in massive waves, each one more intimidating than the last. It was a show of force that could crush the remaining pockets of resistance if not stopped. But humanity had learned one critical thing during their years of hiding. They knew how to fight from the shadows. Earth's cities became a labyrinth of resistant cells and hidden weapons caches. The Vashiri may have had superior firepower, but humans had something they had never faced before: the will to survive. The Resistance's strategy was simple but effective. They relied on guerrilla tactics, using their advanced knowledge of Earth's terrain and the Eclipse's power to strike swiftly and decisively. Each battle was a calculated move, each strike designed to disrupt the Vashiri's operations and buy more time for humanity's ultimate goal: a final, decisive victory. The tipping point came when the Vashiri general, Gornax, a ruthless and intelligent leader, issued a direct order to destroy the human forces once and for all. It was a declaration of war that would decide the fate of Earth. As the Resistance prepared for the largest battle of their lives, Commander Arya knew that humanity's moment had come. They had stopped running, and now they would fight. The battle for Earth. The final confrontation began in space. The Vashiri fleets, larger and more powerful than anything Earth had ever seen, descended upon the planet with overwhelming force. The Resistance, now fully mobilized, prepared to defend Earth with everything they had. The Eclipse, armed with the most advanced human weaponry, led the charge. The battle raged in orbit, with human and Vashiri ships clashing in a violent storm of energy blasts and missile strikes. The skies over Earth were filled with explosions as the two forces collided. The ground trembled with the force of the explosions as Resistance fighters clashed with Vashiri soldiers on Earth's surface. Human ingenuity was on full display. The Vashiri were powerful, but their tactics were predictable. Humanity, on the other hand, was adaptable. Using the terrain to their advantage, they struck hard, exploiting weaknesses in the Vashiri's formations and turning their own arrogance against them. The conflict reached its peak when Commander Arya led a daring assault directly on the Vashiri flagship, determined to finish what they had started. With the Eclipse providing cover, Arya and her team boarded the alien vessel in a desperate final mission to bring down the heart of the invasion. The battle aboard the flagship was brutal. Arya faced off against General Gornax in a one-on-one confrontation, a fight that would decide the fate of humanity. With the fate of Earth hanging in the balance, it was clear there would be no surrender, no second chances. The victory and beyond. The final battle was one of the most violent and intense humanity had ever known. With General Gornax's defeat, the Vashiri flagship was crippled, sending it plummeting toward Earth's moon. As the massive ship exploded, in the distance the remaining Vashiri forces began to retreat, their confidence shattered. The resistance had won, but the cost had been immense. Earth was scarred by the battles, and the road to recovery would be long. Yet, humanity had achieved the impossible. They had stopped running, they had fought back, they had won. As Commander Arya stood among the ruins of Earth's greatest cities, watching as the last of the Vashiri forces fled the planet, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had proven that they would never again be a species to be underestimated. And with that victory, the future of Earth and the galaxy was now in their hands. No longer were they prey. They were hunters. And the galaxy would soon learn that Earth would never run again.